Yesterday's body count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30. 10 out of Haywood. Thanks to unabated gang wars. One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed. Cause the NCPD will not let that go. Got another blackout in Santo Domingo. Net runners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid. While over in Westbrook, trauma teens scraping cyber psycho victims off the pavement. And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our City of Dreams.
What up, chooms? Lobotomized Logan here, and I'm going to tell you whether or not Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 is a Preem Port or a dystopic disaster. So get those eddies ready, and I will tell you where we are going to start. And we're going to start with the game itself. First off, Cyberpunk 2077, it's not like Grand Theft Auto. It's not even like Fallout. I would compare it most similarly to a Deus Ex game like the modern ones, with skill checks and amazing build diversity. It is a very detailed and fun game. If you're not going to buy Cyberpunk on the Switch 2, then just buy it in general. It is worth a play. That is going to be my recommendation. It is a worthwhile game to play. In Cyberpunk 2077, the story of the game is you play a lowly criminal named V who has his eyes set on conquering Night City and becoming a living legend. But along the way, a heist gone wrong, you end up getting schizophrenia, and now you have Keanu Reeves in your head and set out to make things right and fight for survival, which is all I can really say without spoiling the plot, as if you've never experienced Cyberpunk 2077, I would highly recommend you play it before watching any other reviews, as most of them even contain spoilers. This review will even have visual spoilers, so if you want to avoid that, do not watch this video, as I will be showing gameplay from the late game and the Dogtown expansion. Next up is the gameplay section, and Cyberpunk's gameplay is probably the thing that ties it together the most for me. Love the story, love the characters, but if you don't have good gameplay, then you have nothing. You don't have a good game, you have a good story. And I am glad to say that I love Cyberpunk's gameplay. It is just so snappy, it's so fun. This current build, I'm going for a monowire pistol build with a Sandevistan, so as you can see, I froze time and I just wreaked havoc of the place. It is really easy to just go around and stop crimes or do side gigs just because of how good the combat is. It is crazy. It is probably my favorite part of the game, other than the story and then just freedom of choice. Another thing that's great about the game is how exactly you can play through situations. So I'm going to show a clip from a side quest I was doing, and you have two very clear options, but my V isn't a punk, so I didn't let these guys punk me.
Very funny. To you. The fuck is going on here?
You're Choom Kirk. Did biz time to time, but see, had this funny feeling he was trying to play me. Checked out that feeling, told him I had a transport, Preem implants, just sitting there for the taking. And I waited.
See the prank work.
Yep, sure did. Isn't that right, boys? I should splatter your brains on the pavement, but I'd just be wasting lead. Only a fucking gonk could run an op with Kirk. Hey, don't give me that face. You are what you fucking do. So say it. Say you're a gonk little bitch and I'll let you live.
How about a little joke instead? One lies on the ground, listening. So, begging for mercy.
What?
You.
Yeah, get that fuck!
We are getting to the part of the review that everybody cares about, the performance. In my opinion, Cyberpunk 2077 performs good on the Nintendo Switch 2. Not great, as there are FPS dips, but they are mainly when driving, and usually they only happen in Dogtown. For Night City, it's few and far between, but it's still a thing. So I wouldn't expect perfect performance, but at least in quality mode docked, it looks good enough and runs good enough to where I can ignore the few and far between dips in Night City. And even Dogtown's dips, I played games on the original Switch, so the minor amount of dips you get, not really bothered by it. But I'll throw some of that gameplay up on the screen. In my opinion, the Nintendo Switch 2 is a very good way to play Cyberpunk 2077. It's not perfect, but if you want something to play on your shiny new Switch, then it is definitely worth it. And I would even go as far to say as I prefer this over some of the PC handheld versions for the mere fact that the Switch 2 is a lot more convenient to dock. It doesn't have as many issues as PC handhelds with their operating systems, and it is much simpler to use. That is where I think the Switch 2's ports will be the best. Simplicity. Sure, you can go out buy a Steam Deck, a Legion Go, a GPD-Win Mini, an ROG Ally, whatever. But at the end of the day, those are PCs. You have to fiddle with the settings. You have to make sure they're not drawing too much power or getting too hot. You have to monitor like 8 different tasks. With the Switch 2 in third-party games like Cyberpunk and hopefully Borderlands 4, it is going to be an experience where you put the cartridge in, download the game if it's a game key card, and then start it up. And that is the other advantage this version has over PC handhelds, is the fact that the docked experience is much better. I don't know if you've ever tried playing a Steam Deck docked or any of the other handhelds. First off, they tend to go crazy when you plug them in because there's no keyboard or mouse on most of them. And then you have to fiddle with the settings between each mode because it might draw more power. You might have an eGPU plugged in. The Switch 2 is just a much simpler solution to that problem. And that is where I think the Switch 2 lands in its niche. And the final thing is, this may just be me, your mileage may vary, but I am playing it on a 43-inch 4K Samsung in graphical mode, and if you did not tell me that it was 1080p, I probably wouldn't have thought it was. My thing is I'm not a graphics snob. I play on handhelds exclusively, and this looks good enough to me. If you were to tell me this was 1440p, I would believe you. I would also believe you if you told me it had upscaling, as there are some shimmering and some obvious effects from the upscaling, but in TV mode that is less obvious than it is in handheld. However, handheld mode also performs alright. I would argue this is one of the games where TV mode looks better than handheld, of course, like duh. But let's show you some handheld footage of Night City and Dogtown. Of course, handheld looks worse than docked, but for the size and wattage draw of the Switch 2, I think it is genuinely impressive the amount of performance they were able to push into this game. Is simply baffling because this is one of like the first big third-party ports. So all the tricks and tips that other developers might be able to share with Switch 2 optimization aren't even there. This is the first big push. I cannot wait to see what developers are going to do when they've had this system for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I can only imagine that they are going to get better at optimizing for the hardware. I can even see CD Projekt Red bringing over future titles like The Witcher 4 or The Witcher Remake or the next Cyberpunk game. It just is impressive how well the Switch 2 runs Cyberpunk 2077, and it is a very worthwhile purchase. If you either play docked or handheld exclusively, then if you play docked exclusively, get it on like your Xbox, your PlayStation, or PC if you have a better PC than the Switch 2. Or if you play handheld exclusively, then of course you can get like the ROG Ally X and run it at 1080p, 70 FPS. But that is not what this version is for. This version is for those who want to play it on the go and those who want to play it at home without any tinkering or cross-save meddling, just a simple way to play the game and a good one at that. To add on to that, all of the footage you are seeing is in performance mode, and with the screen being VRR, it doesn't really have any noticeable frame dips unless you are in a massive firefight in Dogtown. If you're in Night City, then I barely notice frame dips on the internal screen playing at performance mode, and it still looks really good while it's doing that. So if I were to put a number to this port, Cyberpunk 2077 as a game gets a 10 out of 10. However, this port gets an 8 out of 10. It is a very solid port. However, you can get better handheld experiences and you can get better home console experiences. But if you're looking for that hybrid system or you just need a launch title to play on your new Switch, this will not disappoint you. It has hours upon hours of content. I'm 20 hours in, and I'm not even finished with Dogtown. I just started Dogtown. I've gotten so many side quests done, and I think I'll hit 30 to 40 hours before I even finish the game. So, with all that being said, I highly recommend Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 or any other console if you don't have a Switch 2. It is a must-play by my standards. And with that, like, follow, subscribe. I've been your host, Lobotomized Logan. Y'all have a good one, and I will see you next time. Lobotomized Logan out.